Hello, dear friends. Welcome to Shiksha Mantra. We have selected a very interesting topic today for our discussion. And this topic is going to be very much interesting because it's very unusual as well. It would actually break your common concept of some grammar rules and you'd find something very new here. But before we start, it would be better for us to have a look at this example. So what's said about this example? Rajit loves to play the piano. If I ask you how many clauses are here, obviously, as you know, we have taught it for several times that to find out the clauses, your first and foremost task is to find out the verbs. So what you'd do, you'd find out the verb, and here you'd get one, loves. This is a finite verb. And then you search for the rest of the sentence and you won't get a verb here, though you get a verb to play, but this is non-finite verb and this is not a finite verb. So you would say, sir, here we have one finite verb and one subject associated to this. So we have a single clause here and it's a simple sentence with a single clause. That would be your answer. But my answer would be different. I would say, no, this is not a single clause and not a simple sentence. Rather, this is a complex sentence. And here we have two clauses and you'd get shocked. Sir, how are there two clauses? There's only one finite verb and you are talking of two clauses. How is it possible? Let me explain it. You have one finite verb. That means there's one clause. But you have a non-finite verb here as well. So where there's a verb, there's a clause. So if you have a non-finite verb, obviously you have a clause here as well, but this one is not of the same characteristics or same status as this verb loves has. So it contains a clause that we would say finite clause because it has a finite verb. But this one, which is comprised of a non-finite verb, would call it a non-finite clause. Yes, dear friends, that's why it's a complex sentence with two different clauses. One is a finite clause and the other is a non-finite clause. So far, you have called them to be phrases. Rajit loves what? To play the piano. And you say, so this is a noun phrase. Yes, that's it. Because you have been taught whenever there's a finite verb, there would be a clause, but a phrase doesn't contain a finite verb. Every time we are going to that discussion, we get a particular term and that is a finite verb. So what would happen if there's no finite verb? Rather, we have a non-finite verb there. For that non-finite verb would have a non-finite clause. So now you have found out what I have said, that we are going to learn a very different things today, which probably most of you or some of you at least are not acquainted with. So yes, dear friends, today we are going to learn what are non-finite clauses. So that would be our topic today. What are non-finite clauses? So let's check what are non-finite clauses first. Non-finite clauses are dependent or subordinate clauses, but without a finite verb. They complete the sense of a sentence without showing any tense. They represent a state or an event. So for non-finite clauses, we get some very essential points. First, this point, they are subordinate or dependent clauses. Second point, without a finite verb. Third point, they complete the sense of a sentence. And the fourth point is without showing any tense. And there's obviously a fifth point, that's they represent a state or an event. So I have gathered 5 different characteristics for a non-finite clause. You may write it down. They are dependent or subordinate clauses. We have found it out. How? When we have checked the example there. So here that was written that Rajit loves to play cricket. So Rajit, subject, loves, verb, a non-finite clause is the dependent or subordinate clause to play cricket. And there's no finite verb, so it's without finite verb. It completes the sense of a sentence. If you say Rajit loves, the sense of the sentence isn't complete. So there you have to take help from what? To play cricket. This subordinate clause or this subordinate non-finite clause. And then if we say without showing any tense, that's also another very, very essential thing to remember. Their tense is not disclosed and they also represent a state or an event. So let's take all these 5 characteristics in another example so that you can understand it well and you can remember it well. Playing games on computer is fabulous. So here we get this finite verb. So obviously this is the subject of the sentence. Just have a very keen observation of what I'm saying. So with the subject and complement, obviously it forms the principal clause. And over this principal clause depends this one, playing games on computer, where playing is a verb but non-finite verb, and the entire clause is a non-finite clause. And it forms the subject of a sentence, like a noun clause or noun phrase or noun, you may say whatever you like. So first, it forms the dependent or subordinate clause. Second, it does not contain a verb. That means a finite verb. And the third characteristics, it completes the sense of the sentence. Without this, playing games on computer is fabulous doesn't make any sense. And the fifth one, as this is a non-finite verb, particularly this is participle. In the first example, we have found that's an infinitive, a to-infinitive, and here it's a participle. So when it's a participle, obviously it doesn't have any tense. So these are the 5 different characteristics that we find in a non-finite clause. And after this discussion, whenever you get such a clause, you'd obviously call them non-finite clause. And I know it would be difficult for you now to call them phrases because you have already learned that they have a status and the status is clause-like and they are non-finite clauses. But the question is why? Why do we use non-finite clauses? Actually, we use non-finite clauses to indicate 5 different things. The first is condition, the second is concession, the third is purpose, the fourth is reason, and the fifth is manners. So these are the five different conditions for which we use non-finite clauses. And also, these are about functions. So these are what's the function of non-finite clauses, what function some non-finite clauses perform. Now also we have to consider about the position where a non-finite clause may occur. So if we consider of the position of non-finite clauses, we here get four different positions where a non-finite clause can be used in a sentence, and they are object. You find it out in the first example. Second, subject. In the second example, we have shown how they are used in subject, and also they are used as noun phrases or adverbial phrases. Sorry, it would be four. So these are the four different positions of a sentence where a non-finite clause may occur. And obviously, now we have to learn about the different types of non-finite clauses. We have already learned that non-finite clauses are comprised of non-finite verbs, and being non-finite, they cannot show the tense. But where are they used? Here we have four different kinds of verbs, non-finite verbs, which may be used as four different types of non-finite clauses, and the first of them is to-infinitive. We have already learned it. So when to-infinitive forms non-finite clauses, we get bare-infinitives. They also can form non-finite clauses. Then we have present participle, which we have learned in the second example, and we have past participles. So here we have two infinitives, to-infinitive and bare-infinitive. Actually, two infinitives, to-infinitive and bare-infinitive, and two participles, present participles and past participles, which we may use as types of non-finite clauses, and we can't use perfect participle here for non-finite clauses. So that's it. That's everything from our discussion of non-finite clauses. Here would like to tell you something. Yes, dear friends, if this discussion has become of some worth to you, I'd like to request you to like this channel, to subscribe it, and we are returning very soon with another very fresh video like this. Till then, bye bye, happy learning.